So I've decided to do a video to talk about what happens when Apple prunes your app from the App Store. So something Apple's been doing the last couple of years is they have been going through and looking at the apps that are up in the App Store, and occasionally, if they find something that's problematic, they're yanking the app off the App Store. And generally, the way this works is that what they're really doing is they're looking to see, is the application up to date? Is it something that they might have approved mistakenly? But 9 times out of 10, most likely what's happening is that they're just looking to see if this is an app that somebody put up in the App Store, hasn't been updated to take advantage of the newest screen sizes. Is the application stable? And they're just trying to make sure that the developers who built the application are actually keeping the app up to date. So I have a couple of apps that I put up in the App Store where I've gotten a notification from Apple basically saying, it's like, hey, you've got until this date until you update the app. And if you don't update the app, then we're going to pull it off of the App Store. And I actually think this is a good thing because you don't want to have a lot of apps out there that are just wind up giving the user a poor user experience. So when Apple first made the App Store available for developers, there was one screen size, right? So you really have to take in multiple screen sizes when you're, developing your application. You could develop your application for one screen size, which was like 3.5 inches. So it seems minuscule now compared with some of these new phones and tablets and stuff that are being made today. So that's one of the factors is that they're taking a look at that, and they're deciding whether or not to actually keep an app because of that. Uh, like I said before, I've had a couple of apps that I've gotten that request from Apple to update. One of them I didn't bother even updating because it was a very simple kind of silly application. And so I thought I'd do tonight is let's take a look at an app that's really bad. So I'm actually going to kind of poo-poo on my own code because this is code that I wrote 10 years ago when I was just learning the iOS frameworks and Objective-C, that sort of thing. Plus, you get to see what the architecture of an app from like 10 or 11 years ago actually looks at. So let's take a quick look at this application. I'm going to talk real quickly about what it is and what it does. So this application meant to be for, if you had like a group that you're meeting with and you want to do, let's say, have like a number drawing where, let's say there's a gift that's being given away and you have maybe 10 or 15 people that are in the group, and you want to basically randomly kind of pick somebody out of that group to give them a prize, like a door prize or something like that. And so I called this app iLottoNum. And I'm going to take a quick look here and just kind of go through over the basic structure of the application. So let's see if I can blow this up a little bit. So if we look over here on the left-hand side, we can see the actual project structure here. And this is essentially a single view application. And if you look at this closely, you can see that I've got this class here for main view controller, flip side view controller, which is just basically a little information screen that the user could tap on. I have an app delegate here. And then I have a bunch of these Xib files. The Xib file. So what's an Xib file? So if you're not familiar with the way that you kind of lay things out in an iOS application, Apple and previously Next had these files that were called Nib files or Xib files. In this case, Xib is kind of like the latest version of that. And what the Nib file essentially was a way of, you could describe what your screen or window looked like just kind of graphically. They even have tool that you could use to kind of graphically lay out where the buttons and the text fields and all that stuff were on. So let's take a quick look at that and see what some of these files look like. So I'm clicking on this one here, and it should be drawn out. Okay, so you can see right here from looking at this, this is the iPad view. I am going to go to the main view, so it looks like see what this looks like on an actual device or an iPhone. So you can see here, this is based off of the original aspect ratio of the 3.5 inch. So I think Apple was probably correct to actually yank this one off the store because it doesn't really work properly with modern iOS devices. But you can see what the application kind of did here. You just put in basically a start number and then an end number, and then you would tap on this calculate button, and then it would give you the result. So let's just say a random number between 0 and 100 might be, let's say, 76 as an example. So if somebody was number 76, they would win the prize. And that is basically the app. I'm going to take a look here at one of the controller files, at least the implementation. And you can see here that I have this button pushed. This is receiving the IB action for somebody tapping on the button. And then you can see what we're doing here is that we're just going through here. We're using the cRandom method, which is taking a essentially a float value and creating an actual result that we can then use to display to the user. And it's been a while since I've looked at this. I don't think this is actually the best way of actually getting a random number in C. And you can see here we're kind of seeing this with the sRandom function here. And here we're using the flip side view controller. So I think what I'm going to do with this application is I am actually going to rewrite this application and doing a couple different things. So nowadays, if you're building an application, in most cases, people aren't using Xib files, or either using a storyboard or they're using something like Swift UI. The other thing too is that this application is all written in Objective-C, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. You can still write applications in Objective-C. But if you want to take advantage of Swift UI is obviously Swift. And then the other thing about this is that if we go through here and we take a look at the warnings here, we can see there's a lot of warnings for some different things. Now, one of those warnings is the UI alert view. So one of the things that Apple did was a number of years ago, it was iOS 9, it's probably about 5 years ago, they deprecated that and they've been encouraging people to use something called the UI alert view controller. And so that's an example of something that probably needs to be rewritten as well. Just in general, you don't want to have a lot of these warnings. I believe that internally at Apple, they will reject any check-in to an application that has a warning. So it's best to try to get rid of the warning. A lot of these just seem to be related to localization stuff. Like a lot of this stuff is probably pretty easy to fix. So this is really going to be the first of a couple different videos. What I want to do is kind of go through the process of actually updating the application so it'd be something that Apple would accept, and try to give people a feel for some of the different things you can do. One of the things that you can do is, obviously, there's new and better ways of actually generating random numbers. And there's a use case I want to follow, which is one of the problems, especially if you have a low number of users. If you generate, let's say, a random number between 1 and 5, and you're trying to get a number that's in between there, there's not a lot of options there. So the likelihood that you would get a number repeated if you're trying to give, let's say, more than one gift away, the chances are pretty high that you could see the same number repeat itself, and then you wind up having to try to randomly generate another number again. So we're going to use a slightly different algorithm for getting those numbers, and that's going to be part of this application as well. So this is the first video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you can give it a thumbs down, but give it a thumbs up. And if you like content from this channel, please subscribe. And with that, I'll let you guys have a nice evening. Thanks.